Good evening, everybody, and welcome live from Energizer Park. This is Matthew Rocchio for the City Hub postgame, joined by Thomas Welch and Will Bratton. Thomas looks like he's in his car driving back from a fascinating 0-0 draw. Will hanging out down at the dorm rooms of Mississippi State. Gentlemen, before we dive into the game, how are you doing tonight? Tom, how's the drive home so far?
Not bad. I got my girlfriend driving me, so
good.
We should be okay. I'm not, got one hand on the wheel, one hand on my phone sort of situation going on here, but I'm just happy to be warm. It was a little bit cold in the supporter section. And, obviously a 0-0 draw to start off the season. Not great, not ideal, but I think there's a lot of things to build on for the team. So I'm excited about that.
Will, from the perspective outside of the stadium today, what did you think of the game so far?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought the energy at Energizer Park looked to be absolutely electric, as you can expect in a stadium named after batteries. So obviously things were looking good. Unfortunate to see a 0-0 draw, but you know what? We're in mid-2024 season form with the draws opening up the season. But honestly, I'm actually feeling very optimistic. I thought I saw a lot of positives, so I'm excited to talk about it with you guys here tonight.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to take away. Obviously, a 0-0, 0-0 draw, however you want to call it, today between St. Louis City SC and the Colorado Rapids as they open up the 2025 campaign. They do drop 2 points. They do pick up one. So it is, again, not the start you wanted to see. And right off the bat, head coach Olaf Melberg in his first post-game press conference talked about how they should have won this game because of the chances they were able to create, the fact that they were able to completely nix any chances from Colorado Rapids on the other side. So there is a disappointing factor because you're dropping points tonight. But overall, the domination of a game like that under a new head coach in this kind of weather, that has to give you, some positivity. I know right off the bat, Thomas, you were in the stands. You were hearing it from the fans. What was the reaction throughout the game about the new look City 2.0?
Well, I think everyone was excited about, like you said, the new look, and that went as far as the stadium too. I mean, I got an LED bracelet right on. I thought I was at a Taylor Swift concert with the stars twinkling. Really, it was like Coldplay aesthetic. So even just like the stadium experience in itself, even before you saw the team take the field, was exciting. So the passion, the emotion was there for sure. I got the chance to talk to a lot of fans before the game. I believe that post is going to go out tomorrow. But people were well aware that this was Stan Kroenke's team too. So you had all the things lined up in the right direction to make a beautiful night for St. Louis sports. I know we had a lot of teams going as well. So if you're tuning into this game and you missed the other games on our channel, make sure you tune into those post games too. But as far as City goes, like I said, the electricity there was there. The passion was there. But as the game went on, you kind of got the feeling of, okay, here we go again. Like, we're doing everything except finishing, like the buildup looked better. The transition looked better. The defense obviously looked better. I think the formation really looked great from every angle that I had. And like you said, Olaf noted the defense as well. I thought Josh Yarrow played a fantastic game, and Kessler, without those two on the back end, like, we're probably looking at a deficit and starting off the season with an L. So I think all of those things combined kind of leaves fans like 50-50. It's like, okay, they looked good. They dominated the game the whole time. But at the end of the day, like, you got to put one in the back of the net. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a draw.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know for a lot of people, two of the big names that were surprising them on the starting sheet today would have been Josh Yarrow. A little less surprising just because of the injury issues. Akil Watts did also get the start. So kind of surprised by those two names, but I really do think they both had solid games. Will, your thoughts on some big games from some surprising City contributors in Akil Watts and Josh Yarrow?
Listen, Josh Yarrow is a guy who's been around. He's been there. He's done that. He's a 30-year-old player. Josh Yarrow knows what he's doing in these situations. He's composed on the ball. Is he, going to be Neymar and going to be able to cut around like that? No, he's not. But he's going to be a reliable center back, and that's exactly what we got tonight, and that's exactly what we expect to get out of Josh Yarrow. I'm very happy with his play. I think Kessler had an amazing game. And to your point about Akil Watts, Akil Watts has very much impressed me. And honestly, I think he's making a case to be the number one guy at the pivot position over Chris Durkin, who's just about ready to be back in the starting role from his knee injury he's been dealing with. So definitely one to watch there in Akil Watts.
Well, you heard it there from Will Bratton. I think we might need to start a YouTube poll. Is Chris Durkin about to get Wally pipped for the 6th spot by Akil Watts? I think it's a fair question. Mark M joins the show, and you guys can join the show if you're on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to Sports Hub STL right here on YouTube. And if you want to get involved with the chat, throw down your comments, and we will be reading them. Mark M says you got to give folks credit for sitting out there on a cold-ass night to watch a 0-0 game. A lot of credit. Yeah, you do got to give the fans a lot of credit. And I know Olaf Melberg was impressed with the atmosphere that he saw in his first game. I think he's disappointed he couldn't give those fans 3 points and a win to walk away with into that cold night. But nonetheless, I think he did put on a show for the majority of the game.
Absolutely. And you want to see a win in those situations when you come out and you're dominating. Listen, the theme of the night for us was something that we've seen issues with in past years. It's subpar finishing. If the boys can get the ball on net in these wonderful situations that we're consistently creating, by the way, a lot of grade A opportunities, but that ball's got to find the back of the net at some point. And we saw this issue specifically with Joao Klaus all of last year. A lot of fans talked about that whole thing, and I'm sure those conversations are already re-engaged across social media, and we'll hear about it for the rest of the week. So, you want to see those moments convert, and you need it from your DP.
I will say, now that you bring up the missed shots, diving into some of the numbers right there, most of the XG in the game came from Simon Bescher, hence why he finished as the player of the game. They were, City, I think, finished with about 1.7 in XG. Simon Bescher was responsible for 1.2 of that. And if you really drill down to the specifics of that, there's the volley that he puts into the chest of Stefan in the first half, which was about 0.6 of that XG total. And then 0.4 of it comes from a missed header in the second half. So those are really the two big chances that when you look at the analytical side, those are the two big chances you had a chance to put in the back of the net. You didn't put either of them in the back of the net. And again, when we talk about Klaus's struggles last year, I think people focus too much on the results of the finish and not the quality of the creation for the chance. And the fact that Simon Bescher was getting in those places consistently, the fact that he did have two chances with, a plus 0.3 XG, that's a positive look from the City offense off the bat.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, like, both strikers I thought the whole team played well, but I thought both strikers played well too. Obviously, Simon Bescher played driving the most chances there, so that's ideal and what you want to see in a guy up top. But then Joao Klaus was doing it too. Like, the runs in behind, I think, were kind of night and day from last year, and the success that they had in spreading out the defense of the opposing team. So I thought that was really interesting for me. But then you get all the way to, like, the offensive third, right? Pass to Joao Klaus, and he tries like a back heel. It's like, man, go again. So it's like, all those things taken into consideration, I can see why people would be like, Joao Klaus played a great game. He's doing his role, like, he's doing what's asked of him. And I could also see people being like, if he could just shoot instead of trying to back, maybe nothing would come out of here with a dub. I don't know.
I get that, but I mean, you can't forget just how important the backtracking is. And again, we saw it from Klaus today. If you look at his heat map, and we'll be bringing up those kind of stats throughout the week on Sports Best STL. If you look at his heat map, he's back beyond, on the defensive side of the half for big chunks of the game and things like that. So that's not really surprising. I really do think it's part of the game that makes him work. One thing I did want to get from you guys, and I think a lot of City fans are wondering about this, and we got a little context from Olaf Melberg. I'll give that here in a moment. I do want to get your instant reactions. We'll start off with you, Will. Your reaction when one of the newest City players, in fact, chronologically, he is the newest City player, Alfredo Morales, joined the team as the first sub of the season, and he came in for Edward Leuven. We do have some context, and I will give that, but right off the bat, Will, what was your reaction when you saw that as the first sub of the game in the season?
For me, you take, one of your playmakers and leaders off the pitch in the 66th minute. Obviously, there's a question mark, right? But when you have a guy like Alfredo Morales, 35-year-old player, 10 years of experience in the Bundesliga and 2 Bundesliga, this guy knows what he's doing. I wasn't worried really about his playmaking abilities. I wasn't terribly worried about some horrible talent fall off. I was more so worried about why are we taking Edouard Leuven off the pitch in the 66th minute? So that was my immediate reaction. Was less about Morales and more about why is Leuven coming off the pitch. I thought Morales did just fine when he came on.
What about you, Thomas? What was your thoughts when you saw that play?
Definitely similar sentiments of, hey, what's going on? I love Edouard Leuven, and he's heading to the bench right now. Like, that's not ideal. Asking some questions of myself for sure. I will also say that as far as Alfredo Morales goes, like that one game I think we hopped on a Spaces together after the preseason was like the full extent of soccer that I've seen him play. So I was like, hopefully Leuven's okay, just needs some rest. We'll put Alfredo in here and I'll kind of, get a firsthand glimpse, pretty close to, of like seeing his play. And I thought he was phenomenal. Like as a trialist coming in, like I was like, hedge my expectations. Like I don't know much about this guy, but I'm going to see what he's capable of. But I think the confidence that he had going out there, vocalizing to his teammates, but also the confidence when he was moving with the ball, like trying passes that in small windows and feeding his teammates, and just like the passing networks that he was willing and able to create was very impressive to me, just in my like short instance scenario with Alfredo Morales.
And here's the context from head coach Olaf Melberg. After the game, he was talking about Morales, talking about how well he's done in preseason. He did point out that Morales is still a little bit short of fitness, but pretty much it came down to Edu was tired. And not to look at a negative, a positive spin on that is he's like, Edu was tired because Edu was running. And that's what he wants. And we're going to get into a little bit of some of the positioning a little bit later, because there were some things I thought that I didn't expect, but nonetheless, that was the reasoning behind that. I understand that one. When Morales was lining up to come in, I thought it was going to be Akil Watts, because I thought maybe they want that extra offensive punch, the passing, the progression, the ball control of Morales over an Akil Watts. But again, in this system, the ability to press, the ability to move is always going to be big. That's why I think that they're going to win a lot of games from the 60 to 90 minute point, because they have a deep bench, because they can wear teams down and then take over. So I understand why people are a little bit frustrated with that one, but I did think it made sense in the long run. Let's get to another comment here. Again, if you want to comment, you want to have any questions for me, Will, or Thomas, you can. We're going to be joined by Kylee here very soon. This is from the City Boys. There were some chances where Klaus and Besser were making the same near post run. Will, did you see something similar to that? That is not something I personally saw, but I'll get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I didn't really notice any major moments where Klaus and Betcher were kind of butting heads on their runs. In fact, I actually really think they have quite the bromance on the pitch. I think they're really playing nicely off of each other. There's really only one player on the squad that I think can play even nicer off of Joao Klaus, and that's Celio Pompeu, who unfortunately we didn't get to see the return of tonight. But he was they were warming up on the sideline the whole time. He was in the roster, in the squad for the match day, as was Tomas Ustrak. And I think that Ustrak could have been a cool option to throw in for a little more offensive punch. But in a 0-0 game, when you want to put in Morales in that situation, who can be reliable defensively and be a more one-for-one replacement with Leuven, rather than trying to switch things up on large term. So
here's what I'll say to the City Boys about them both making the same near post run. I'm going to need screenshots. I'm going to need a timestamp. I want to know what you're talking about. I'm not going to disagree with you because I didn't see it, but I want to know what you're talking about. My only reason I'm kind of questioning that point is because I didn't see this team make a lot of making the same near post run. For some reason, I read that as far post runs. You know what? City Boys might very well be accurate, because one of my biggest criticisms is I didn't see anyone pressing the far post, the back post, which I thought was kind of odd, because I think it's where you can create a lot of, balls across the face of the defense that are hard to deal with. And I think other than maybe that one by Simon that went across the face that no one touched, I just didn't really see a lot of those balls, and that was a little bit disappointing. Daniel Guevara, I apologize if I butchered that. 18 shots and not clinical in front of net is the issue once again. I had a feeling we were going to get these comments, and I'm glad we're getting them now. Here's my thing. Again, we already talked about, we broke down, and I apologize, Daniel, if you missed it. We broke down where the majority of the XG comes from City tonight. It's the miss from Bescher in the first half on the volley, and it's the miss from Bescher in the header in the second half. And I'll let you guys give your thoughts in here. But my thought is more so on the first goal. And again, that counted for 0.6. So over a third of City's total XG came on that volley in the first half. Zach Steffen played it perfectly. The ball's still high. Besher has to play the ball high. Steffen comes out and closes the space. Besher has maybe a yard, maybe 2 feet to redirect the ball while it's in midair, while his foot's up at his chin level, and Steffen's crashing out hard. So the difficulty level of that shot is insane for Simon Besher. And so for that one to be the one that's supposedly the most likely one to be a goal, again, should call into question how useful XG is, but we're going to use it anyway. And if that's one of the big misses we're going to complain about not being clinical enough, I think we're kind of getting a little bit too far with it. So your guys' thoughts on the lack of clinical finishing? Will, you first.
Yeah, honestly, XG is partially calculated in terms of did he make good contact on the ball and where was he in that position and where was the goalkeeper in that position. So obviously, when you're in the 6-yard box and you're getting a clean strike on the ball, no matter the difficulty of the striking, you're going to get a high XG in that situation. Being not there in person, I was able to see on replay, he didn't drill it into Steffen's chest. It was actually one of the most incredible saves probably of the match day in all of MLS. Steffen reached out and swiped at it with his right hand and literally stops, a sure goal. So, that's one where, you want that to go, but a great goalkeeper makes great plays. And we're going to do that to a lot of teams when you have Roman Berkey in the net. So we're not the only ones who are going to be frustrated in that regard. And then I agree the finishing wasn't clinical enough, but at the same time, we're one amazing save and one offside call from the 2-0 win, even though the finishing was subpar. And I think that says a lot about how well we dominated that match, because in an ideal world where, let's say Leuven nails the set piece and Betcher, pokes that one past Steffen, and, we've got 2 or 3 more class opportunities. This could have been a 4-0 or 5-0 match. I mean, Colorado generated next to nothing on attack. And of course, we'll talk about our defense a little bit later on. But overall, it's really hard for me to say our attack wasn't that good, because it was. I think we did a lot of things right. It's just the finishing, get that final poke. We just need to see one cross the line. I think it's going to open up some floodgates for us.
Thomas, your thoughts on the finishing tonight, or the lack thereof?
Yeah, I think when you take all those things into consideration, just like Will said, and the XG and all that stuff, I also think it's like, you can look at XG and be like, oh, this is how the game should have played out. But in all reality, there's a lot of other things that go into it. So the biggest thing for me is not so much the finishing, but it's like, I think we had 18 shots total, but then like 5 of them were on target. So it's like making the most of those opportunities. I felt like personally there was a lot of like they get close to the net and then it's like they make one extra pass instead of just firing it on goal. And it's like, it doesn't always have to be like Sports Center, like da-na-na, da-na-na, like highlight reel goal that's just shown over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you can get a fluky one that deflects off somebody, goes in the corner. And with Steffen and that, like sometimes that's what you need. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is not so much volume of shots, because that's obviously good. And when you're dominating a game like City did tonight, that's what you want too. But the volume of shots on target, I think, is the biggest thing for me that I want to see with City.
Rocchio, we lost
my
your
apologies,
mic.
My
There
apologies. That's the big difference, because a lot of people around here, and I was trying to keep it down. I think the issue is that fans have an issue, and they don't like focusing on the process over the results. But that's, for me, the biggest thing you have to focus on at all times. It's what the coach is going to say. So if you don't like hearing it from me, you're going to hear it from the coach as well. They're focusing on the process more than the actual results, and that's going to be the important thing here. And before we move on here, I just want to tell everybody, by the way, the Sports Hub STL, like and subscribe to the YouTube page. If you haven't already, you can find us all across your socials, Twitter/X, Instagram, YouTube. We're all over the place. Follow us and stay up to date. We'll be having post-game shows. This is our 5th of 5 post-game shows tonight. We've had the 4 previous of all the big events that have been coming. So stick with Sports Hub STL as we continue on this new journey in St. Louis. And in fact, you can come join us out for a little bit of a party coming up. You can mark your calendar for the night of Thursday, February 27th, for the Sports Hub STL kickoff party. The event will take place at the new Hot Shots on Lindbergh in Lime. Come out and meet the Sports Hub STL team and enjoy great food and drink specials. The party will start at 6 as the Blues drop the puck on the road against Washington. We'll watch the game together, have great prize giveaways, and the Blues Hub post-game show will broadcast live on site immediately following the game. That's Thursday night, February 27th, starting at 6 p.m. at the new Hot Shots on Lindbergh in Lime. Hot Shots, St. Louis's home for all the games, all the time, since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. And, of course, thank you very much to Hot Shots for sponsoring the post-game show. City plays out to a 0-0 draw against the Colorado Rapids. And we might disagree with Daniel, but I think we can all disagree with Royals fan 8998 who comes trolling into the chat and says, St. Louis barbecue lacks flavor. Stan Kroenke was absolutely correct. Royals 2025 World Series champ. I'm pretty sure you're 0 for 3 on that one, champ, especially the last one and the first one. Daniel Guevara jumps back into the chat. Dropping points at home was the issue last season. Colorado did nothing but they still stole a point. You're not wrong. That's 100% correct here. But again, if all you're going to do is look at a result and say, well, this is just like last season, I'm not going to be able to help you very much, because if you can't watch the game tonight and see a team that is demonstrably better with the ball at their feet, which I think was a huge factor that people brought up last year. All I heard from City fans last year, or at least one of the biggest things I heard from City fans last year, was they were tired of seeing them just hoof the ball down the field 40 yards and try to make something happen with a header and accidental soccer, accidental football. I think it's been called by different people in different situations. But I think that was overwrought. And we've seen a better team with ball at their feet, but we still saw a direct team. And everything Olaf Melberg said the preseason told us, this is still going to be a very direct team. So overall, let's get away from the breakdown, or I guess let's get away from the numbers. Did you see a more improved team? Did you see the expectations fulfilled in game one of what you saw in the preseason? Will, you're up first.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at preseason, I'm looking for a lot of different things when I'm watching these preseason matches. But the most important thing on my agenda is more of what are the philosophies that are being preached by the coaching staff? What are we seeing the overall themes that are developing in the team? How are we progressing up the pitch? How are we working with the ball? What are our pressing triggers? We saw a lot of these questions get mostly filled in during preseason, but tonight we got all the real answers, all the juicy details, and it was very fun to watch. For me, I think the expectation is met. We worked with the ball. Our press was way less chaotic. There were very specific triggers that I was able to iron out and figure out exactly what some of these triggers are that cause us to press and who's involved in leading the press at different times. A lot of different intricacies that a lot of fans don't think about a lot of the time. But when you think about it, strictly objectively, what did we accomplish? What did we show that we're going to do? And did we adhere to a philosophy, hold to it for the match, and get, somewhat an appealing of a result? The answer is absolutely yes, we did. And so I'm very optimistic for what's to come. I think there's a lot of positives to take away from this match. Thomas, what did you think?
Yeah, I think absolutely the same thing. Like, if I had to pick like a weak player out of the game, like I don't even know if I could do it, because I feel like everyone had a solid performance. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, there wasn't like a glaring issue really at like any position where I was like, oh, we're getting beat like a rented mule here. Like, it was just fantastic to watch, and all of these players like coming together, like kind of like I said earlier, like the passing network. Really, I think the biggest thing for me that I noticed was the unforced turnovers. As opposed to last year, I think there was like 2 from Hebert maybe that I was close to like jumping out of the stands. But other than that, they were locked down. And like, I know I've definitely talked about like Hebert at times been like, sometimes he gets scary when he's outside, but like, I love him at center back and I love his play defensively. And I thought he played great tonight along with everybody else. So in terms of how promising this team is, like, Colorado was a good team too. I think they only had like 5 losses last year. So when you go, and obviously they played already once and, on short rest and all those things, but when you're going toe to toe with a team like that and it's 0-0, all those things combined, like you're learning a new system, you have a new coach, there's a new naming rights on the stadium, all these new things, and they're coming together under like game one with all this pressure on you and pomp and circumstance outside the stadium and inside the stadium. Like, given all of the factors that we've talked about, I'll take a 0-0 draw at the level that it looked like tonight, not at the level that it looked like last year.
Absolutely. Couldn't help it. Let's combine and let's finish off this city quartet. Kylee Hansen joins us right now. She's joining us in the city area. Kylee, what are your thoughts on the match? You've heard enough from us.
I thought it was good. I thought they controlled the ball in the midfield. The first half was really strong for them. I feel like they took off the gas. They took their foot off the gas in the second half, I would say. But one of my favorite players to watch was Simon Becker. Sorry if I butchered his name. But he was a fun player to watch tonight. He created so many chances for them and just did so well on the offensive side. But in those player interviews that we were just talking about, that we were just in for post game, they were talking about how they shift on the back line, and I'm pretty sure they gave up 0 shots on goal tonight, which is crazy, and it's kind of just bringing in the new head coach's strength on defense, and I thought it was really fun to watch. Honestly, it was a good game. I wish that someone would have scored. They created so many chances where I wish they would have finished. And came away with the win for that first game, which I think would have built a ton more momentum for the rest of the season. But I think that coming away with the 0-0 draw to Colorado is not a bad play for the first game.
Kylee, we were able to get some insight from head coach Olaf Melberg about the moves with Edwin Leuven. Anything that jumped out from you from your talk with the players in the postgame?
Yeah, I want to talk about Akil Watts. He was really calm, even in his interviews, and he was calm on the ball too. He said he was very comfortable and confident. He said that the whole team is very positive and that they've all been getting along very well in the locker room, on the field, and during preseason. And they were people were asking him, is this your year? And he was like, yes, I think this is going to be it. This is my position. And he has a ton of confidence, and you can tell when he has the ball, he's calm and collected. And I think that's how they all were. Kessler talked also, and he had a big night on defense when he got that one stop in the first half. I remember for sure when they had that one-on-one opportunity. But he said that they were solid, and that he talked a lot about their back line shifting, how with their shift over, how they're all covering for each other, and just how they didn't give up any shots on goal. But I think that they're all in a very positive mood. Very happy with the tie, obviously, for this first game. It's just all kind of new to everyone, and they're kind of first time all working together. But I thought it was a good game, and I'm excited for these next few to come.
All right, well then, I love that insight, Kylie, especially because earlier on in the postgame we were talking about Akil Watts. Is this going to be the year? Will he take over that starting spot? Obviously, a big night for him tonight. He looked extremely solid, and there it is. He's already saying, this is my season. The runway's been in front of him. He got the full run in the preseason, and now this is his chance to take a spot. I think there's a good chance with the fact that Chris Durkin still with some knee soreness. We heard Olaf Melberg on Friday talking about the fact that he's still not at 100%. We didn't see him getting time off the bench tonight. And so I'm really excited about what we saw from Akil Watts. And I think it's fair to say that wasn't what we expected our main takeaway from the first game to be. And maybe that's one of the downsides of walking away with just a 0-0 draw. Before we wrap up here, I want to get everyone's second thoughts on this first game before we head into the Sunday and a week without any city soccer as we prepare for game number 2. So, Will, right off the bat, some final thoughts on the game.
Overall, I think fans have a lot to think about. I think there's a lot of positives to take away. And once you get past the fact that you went to a quote-unquote boring 0-0 draw or watched it on TV, you'll notice that this is a City 2.0 team as coined by sporting director Welch. It's just a very much better team. It's so much more organized. They're so much more composed on the ball. The press has very well-developed triggers. Everything just makes sense. It flows nicely. The roster's deep. I think this City team is one to watch in this Western Conference, and quite frankly, potentially in the league. I think this is a team that can make a deep playoff run. I think there's a team that could beat anybody in this league right now. So I'm very happy with the overall play. I'm excited to see what lays ahead, and I'm also really excited to see what we get out of Akil Watts, because that is going to be a story to watch for the next few weeks. Flush your mic.
There it is again. Thomas, I'm going to need you to jump out of the car, pull somebody over, and get their opinion on the match. Or you can just fill us in with what you thought.
It's a good idea.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. I think for me, my biggest takeaway from this game is you can kind of see with how I talked about, like every position player was effective and every position player was impressive to me. And I think that kind of gives us a glimpse of why there was no spot potentially for Indiana Vasilev to get significant amount of playing time. And also a tiny bit of business for Lutz to get $1 million out of that. I know I was talking on Twitter, like as soon as the news came out, like, oh, they better have got $1 million. And thankfully they did. But yeah, I think it's a small sample size, obviously, but like the things that have made City successful in their time in the MLS has been their depth, their press, their energy, all of those things. And I think now we're above 50% on possession. So that speaks to what Olaf immediately is coming into. I also noticed that the discipline, like they're not yelling at the referee all the time, complaining about calls. Like they're setting the ball down, getting it moving. Like the pace of play is fantastic. Like they're like, oh, let's let the other team argue while we throw it over their heads and get an odd man rush going the other way. So all those things combined, I think, are promising for the future of this club, not just this year, but in years down the road, with a stud at the helm as their new coach. But I would say the goal that Carolyn Kindle-Betts said has been playoffs, and that's a non-negotiable. And I think this looks to me, on a small sample size, like a playoff team.
All right, from the basement of Energizer Park, Kylee Hansen, your final thoughts on tonight's game.
Yeah, I want to say that the atmosphere here also was still great. I think being here, this is my only second time here. I came to the inaugural match in 2023 where it was a party, but it was still, the atmosphere was great. It's freezing cold outside, but it was so fun. I think being part of STL City for these people will be, or just being a part of this team. And right now, I think it'll be a fun rest of the season. I think that, you know, they controlled well. I think it's all still, it's once again, it's still all just new for them. And I think that they're excited to work together. I think that, yeah, agree with you, Thomas, that they're all calm and they're letting everyone else argue and they just want to play and get their reps in and get ready for what's to come. And I think that they need to put the ball in the back of the net to win, but I think that they'll do it. I think that they'll get it done these next few games.
All right, that is Kylee Hansen live from Energizer Park. There we go. No, that way. Whatever way it's supposed to be. The other way. That way. There it is. That's Will Bratton. He's live from Mississippi State on City Hub postgame, and that's Thomas Welch in the bottom. There it is. He's driving back from the game. This has been your City Hub postgame. I'm Matthew Rocchio. Stay tuned, of course, for all your City coverage here on Sports Hub STL. Like and comment on the YouTube page. Follow us on X, on Instagram, and everything else. And again, all the City games this year. Stay tuned with us for the postgame and stay with us throughout the week for more City coverage here on Sports Hub STL.